wonder which crowd I would have actually been in. I wonder if I were in the moment, if I were living in that time, would I have cried out for Barabbas too? Would Barabbas have been my choice between Christ and him? And the reason I think that I fear sometimes that I may have chosen Barabbas is because Barabbas asks nothing of me. Barabbas makes no demands on me. He asks me to do nothing. He asks for no sacrifice. He asks for no love. He asks for no tribute. He asks for nothing. He doesn't ask for me to come to church on Sunday. He wouldn't have asked for me to sacrifice or be a good person or anything else. He was just a common man, and he wouldn't have asked of anything of me. And that's appealing. That's appealing. And I wonder if I would not have asked for Barabbas myself. The other words that we hear in today's gospel from the crowd, we have no king but Caesar. We have no king but Caesar. And I think certainly we hear that in our own day as well. They were certainly not saying we are not religious people. They were Pharisees and Sadducees and very devout Jewish people who were there. They're not saying we are not for religion. They're saying in the earthly realm, in the political realm, in the realm of this world, we only listen to Caesar. Caesar's there, and we go over and we do our religious stuff over here. When it comes to the ways of the world, we have no king but Caesar. Caesar there, God over here, they have nothing to do with each other. And we have a lot of people telling us that that's the case in our own day as well. Assuring us, even Catholics, assuring us, we don't have an earthly ruler besides Caesar, or a president, or a political body, or a king, depending on whatever country you're in. But we have people telling us today that we don't have an earthly, we have nothing to guide us in terms of what's going on in the world except for Caesar. That's not what the church teaches. Christ didn't teach that. There is a mingling between this world and God. And if we fail to see that, we are completely blind. And we are handicapped in a way that prevents us from seeing reality as it is. If we think that there is a Caesar land and God land, and there is no divide, or that there is a divide between them, we have completely missed the boat. Those men were very religious men who said, on earth we have no king but Caesar. And I wonder if I would not yell out the same thing. In our first reading, we read that this prophet who would be coming, the reading being from the Old Testament, promises that this Messiah and this prophet would be spurned and avoided by people. Spurned and avoided by people. And I think that we have to admit that he is spurned and rejected still today. And why? Why do people reject Christ? Why do I sometimes reject Christ? Because of what continues to go on in the first reading. It says, the prophet notes that this Messiah will be a man of suffering, accustomed to infirmity. Infirmity being sickness. We spurn Christ because Christ is a man of suffering and a man of illness. If we look at Christmas again, as we were speaking about several months ago, most people missed Christ. They didn't know that there was a Savior that was born in Bethlehem. Why is that? Because they had already decided who the Messiah would be. They'd already decided how the Messiah would look. He was going to be a king and a military leader. He would never be born in a manger. And so many people missed him then. Last Sunday, on Palm Sunday, what did we celebrate? We celebrate the people lining the streets of Jerusalem, never having even, most of them, their only knowledge of Christ was through stories. They'd heard things about him. And they had already decided, without meeting him or listening to him, that he was going to be the Messiah. So they were all fired up. This will be awesome. Here comes the Messiah that we already know that we need. Well, when Jesus started talking to them and preaching to them, somehow, a week later, they were ready to kill him. And in fact, did kill him. Most people missed Christ, the ones even that were cheering for him on Palm Sunday, because Christ is a man of suffering, accustomed to infirmity. And again, many people miss him today. Or, like the people in our reading today, and the people in Palm Sunday, and the people that were around at Christmas who went about their business and didn't duck into a barn in Bethlehem. Many people today construct their own Jesus in their mind. They too, we too, have decided what Jesus needs to do for me, what the Messiah needs to look like, what he needs to say, what he needs to not say. We decide very often the ways in which Christ will challenge me and the ways in which he will not. We construct our own Jesus. And because we sometimes construct our own Jesus, we miss the real one. Just like the people in Bethlehem, just like the people on Palm Sunday, and just like many people today. We construct a Jesus that will allow us to live more the way that we would like to live and less challenging. We think of Christ as sometimes, and certainly we do, and also many people out in the world today, think of him as some magical fairy who ought to come by and grasp us by the shoulder and whisk us away to magical fairyland. But Jesus suffers, and he shows us something if we watch and listen to him. Jesus is saying to us, do you want to go to heaven? And if the answer is yes, here's how you get there. It's the cross. It's the cross. He didn't say, I'm too good for the cross. I'm too good for suffering because I'm God. No, he shows the way. There is no magic fairy coming to grasp us by the shoulder. If we want to get to heaven, the cross is the way. I remember as a young child the image of we studied mythology, right? And the river Styx, and the god would whisk you across the river Styx to Hades, to the afterlife, in a boat. That boat, for us as Christians, Christ is saying, the boat that gets us to the afterlife is the cross. That is what you ride, that is what you live, and that is the only bridge that will bring you there. If you're waiting on a magical transport, you will miss the only way to actually get there. But again, because Christ is a man of suffering, accustomed to infirmity, he is spurned and avoided by people. The rich, obviously, we hear in the Gospels, we hear that it's a challenge for the rich to make it to heaven. That's not God saying, I don't like rich people. That is Jesus warning us and letting us know that when we are rich, it is easy to avoid the cross. It is much easier for us to avoid suffering. But this message that the cross is the only way to heaven is great news for the vast majority of the world that is in extreme poverty and that is suffering. Because when they hear about the cross, they recognize, well, you know what? That's the life that I'm living right now. We who have been blessed and are fortunate instead oftentimes have to intentionally choose the cross if we want to follow Christ's commands. But again, the good news for the vast majority of the world, and in fact the gospel means good news, the good news is that one's suffering is no longer meaningless. It's not God punishing you. In fact, it is a gift. Because the cross is the only bridge that will bring us to heaven. Christ was spurned and avoided by people then when he came, and Christ is spurned and avoided by people today because he is a man of suffering. Have we decided who Christ is and what he needs to do for us? Are we waiting on a magical transport? Or do we seek out suffering? Do we seek out the cross, thus allowing the good news of the gospel to become part of our life? For those who do not suffer, today is Friday. For those who do suffer, today is Good Friday.